Alrighty, welcome everybody. There was no countdown today. I'm having a problem with the audio on the countdown, but in the house tonight, I've got my cousin
Alrighty, welcome
Frankie.
everybody.
There was no countdown today.
What in
I'm
the
having a
world
problem with
is
the audio
going
on the
on?
countdown, but in the
Hold on,
house
Frankie.
tonight, I've got my cousin
Alrighty, welcome
Frankie.
everybody. There
The
was no
heck is going
countdown
on?
today.
Hold
What
on,
in the
I'm having a
world
problem I'm gonna with
is
the
going
audio on the
on?
countdown, but in the
Hold on,
house
Frankie.
tonight, I've got my
Alrighty,
cousin
welcome
Frankie.
everybody. There
The
was
heck
no
is going
countdown
on?
today.
Hold on,
What in
I'm
the
having a
world
problem with
is
the audio
going
on the
on?
countdown. Come on, YouTube, kick in. There we go. All righty, everybody. Sorry for that uh, trouble that we had with the audio. In the house tonight, we've got my cousin Frankie Olivo. Frankie, welcome back.
Hey, good evening, Danny. Hello, world.
Are you excited about tomorrow? Did you ever think we were going to get to this point of celebrating Donald Trump's reelection?
Yes, looking forward to tomorrow, that and the birthday. But did I ever think this was going to happen? In the back of my mind, I there was that little bit of doubt because man, they just threw the house at him pretty much for the past 6+ months. But looking forward to tomorrow. Very, very um, action-packed day, to say the least.
Well, for everybody out there, what the countdown is, it is exactly, I believe, is it 15 hours? Is that what the clock is showing? 15 hours, 51 minutes, and I think 04 seconds till noontime tomorrow. So at noontime, Donald Trump will be uh, sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. And for anybody that hasn't been on Earth for the last 10 years, knows that Mr. Trump actually served as president, the 45th president, back in 2016. And he lost re-election to Sleepy Joe Biden 4 years ago. And so he will be sworn in for his second and final term starting Monday, tomorrow. And as Frankie said, yeah, it was definitely a quite an interesting year for him. Obviously, right? They threw everything, including the kitchen sink, to him, and he managed to, pretty much come out of it pretty easy, right? Without much scathing, I guess. But definitely it looked kind of there for a little bit that he may not, succeed. But it so happened that he managed to get reelected. So but basically, as we mentioned, there he is, the 47th president of the United States, or soon to be the 47th president of the United States. And the presidential inauguration is tomorrow. It is held every 4 years on January 20th. And tomorrow is January 20th. And by the way, for all you federal employees out there, you're also off because I believe it's Martin Luther King Day as well, right, Frankie?
Yeah, that's correct. Federal holiday, and then the weather. So a lot's happening tomorrow.
I know it is the first inauguration that's going to be held indoors since Ronald Reagan's second inauguration back in 1985. Right? Yeah, because the election was in '84, and the term started in 1985, and that's the the last time that there was an indoor uh, inauguration, and that's going to be held in the rotunda, by the way, and it can only hold like 1,000 people. So all those people, I believe there were like 22,000 people that bought tickets to attend the outside. They're not going to be able to attend unless they're, VIPs. And speaking of VIPs, of course, we know that the former presidents, Barack Obama, George Bush, and Bill Clinton, are going to be there along with their wives, right? Well, with the exception of one. We'll talk about that in a little bit, right? But no surprise, a few tech moguls, Elon Musk, as you know, flew out of here this weekend, and he is actually in Washington, D.C. So he's probably got the first seat in the first row. And believe it or not, Google's CEO, also known as Alphabet, Sundar Pichai, is in the house as well. That's a surprise, because, Google was accused quite a bit of, trying to manipulate the election for Democrats. But, surprise, surprise, he's there. Jeff Bezos, believe it or not, he was kind of lukewarm to Donald Trump as well back then. And surprise, surprise, I guess those government contracts mean a lot. So he's going to be in the house. Apple CEO Tim Cook, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, and Facebook Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is also going to be in the house. Kind of surprising, Frankie, that, with the exception of Elon Musk, the rest of these CEOs had been on the fence or not very supportive of Donald Trump in the past. In fact, some were even very critical of Donald Trump in the past. But behold, they're going to be there. So what do you think about that? You think it's hypocrisy with the exception of Musk? Well, even in some cases, Musk left the early Trump White House, you know, himself also, you know, early on. So what do you think of these guys? Do you think it's hypocrisy, or you think it's just they're just, you know, trying to see what they can reap out of Donald Trump?
Um, I don't think it's hypocrisy at all. What we've seen from the previous administration was how they use these social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Google, to try and sway, manipulate public opinion. What we have seen from the likes of Facebook, and this is something that we deal with constantly, is censorship. Certain things that you talked about regarding the election, President Trump's assassination, it wouldn't come up. I don't think it's hypocrisy at all. I just think that whenever you have Big Brother, with a barrel right down, right down your temple, you do as you're told. That's no different. These platforms are controlled, used by the government. Now, what we've seen and what we anticipate is more of free speech, so to speak. Um, we'll never see that to its full extent, but I just think that's the tide, Danny. Now, these social media platforms, they have to align, because if not, President Trump can, you know, create laws, impede them from being successful. We just saw how much influence he has on TikTok.
Right.
Everybody was going crazy these past, 12 hours. Oh man, the end of TikTok, the end of TikTok. And what do we see from President Trump? We have to save TikTok. And we'll speak on that a little bit later. But once he gets sworn in, one of the things he's going to do is extend the time for TikTok to make the proper arrangements to stay afloat, so to speak.
Right.
But no, it's not hypocrisy at all. I just think that the social media platforms do as they're told, and if the government tells you to do something, you best do it.
Yeah, well, obviously, one of the things that happened, as you mentioned, was TikTok, right? TikTok, there was a law passed by the Congress, and it wasn't a one sided vote. It was both Republicans and Democrats, obviously, that voted for the law. And obviously, Joe Biden signed the law, and it basically it was going to ban TikTok if it wasn't sold to a U.S. Um, investor, or better yet, any investor other than a Chinese, because as you know, the company behind TikTok is a Chinese company called ByteDance, and they are a conglomerate of the Chinese Communist Party. So there has been a concern for quite some time that the Chinese Communist Party is using TikTok as a way to spy on Americans. Not so much spying in the traditional sense, but trying to keep track of what's going on. I had a show maybe about a week or two ago where I talked about the high number of Chinese nationals and one Russian that have been caught here on the U.S. border, and also at Starbase. There's a lot of Chinese nationals taking video and pictures. And, at first people thought I was nuts, right? They're saying, oh, that's not happening. Oh, it is. It is. It's happening. China is very influential. And a lot of times what's going on down there is, you have all these YouTubers, and I love my fellow YouTubers, but I think sometimes we're doing a disservice because they're zooming in, Frankie. They're zooming in straight into the rocket. They're zooming in, looking at the underside of the belly, the engines. And that basically is information that is used by the Chinese Communist Party as well as the Russians. They're interested in this stuff. Why? Because they want to be part of the gravy train. The satellite business. It's not about nuclear missiles. It's not about aiming nuclear missiles at the U.S. What Elon Musk's technology down there has nothing to do with nuclear missiles. They want to be part of the gravy train, the satellite business. That's big business. And right now, Elon Musk and SpaceX are eating their lunch because every satellite that a Falcon 9 gets launched on is money that the Russians don't make, and it's money that the Chinese don't make. And if you recall, the United States, paid the Russians for 10 years $90 million a launch to launch cargo, satellites, and astronauts because we retired our space shuttle. That's $93 million that Vladimir Putin turned right around and reinvested that money to do proxy wars like in the Ukraine, and it reinvest in their nuclear technology. So yeah, it's happening. And I can understand the reason why the ban law passed, but at the same time, I think that I believe that ByteDance didn't really think that anybody was going to be serious about clamping down the law. In fact, I didn't think it was going to be happen, but yesterday when I logged into TikTok and I saw the screen, I was like, "Oh my God, it did happen, right? It did happen. I can't believe." And be me an IT guy, and I've been one for forever. I'm still trying to figure out how in the heck they managed to block people, because one of the hardest things to do in IT is to be able to block people, because for every block you put on somebody, they find a way to maneuver their way around it. And I was seeing all kinds of stuff, online, guys saying, well, if you change the country code on your phone, that it'll trick the application to think you're like somewhere else, right? And it won't. I don't know. I never got a chance to try it. I don't know how true that was, but anyway, yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, it isn't hypocrisy, but I think it's just kind of funny, right? That some of these guys, with the exception of Elon Musk, have been so critical of Donald Trump. I mean, extremely critical. Not just critical, as you mentioned, Google was known to filter content that was pro-Trump. They would put more stuff out there that was anti-Trump than anything else, and it's just kind of funny that these guys are now all eating at the same table together. But who is not attending? Well, former First Lady Michelle Obama. Now, what do you think, Frankie? You think she's just pissed off at Donald Trump because she accused her husband of not being a naturalized born citizen? Or do you think that she and Barack are on the splits? I mean, you've heard the rumors. I mean, but obviously she's not attending. What's your take on her not attending? Because she didn't even attend President Carter's funeral either, by the way.
Yeah, there were rumblings about their marriage, and this has been going on for quite some time now. We did see the couple come out during the Democratic national convention, and they were promoting their nominee, of course. I just think it's, she's pissed off. Not many people, as we all know, like President Donald Trump. I think this is just her way of saying, screw you, I'm not going to go. It's more for tradition. We see Hillary doing it as a former first lady. Uh, President Bush and his wife Laura, former first lady, will be in attendance. I just think it's a matter of respect. They did it for you. When you were coming into office, and it's only fitting um, for you to return that gesture. I just think she's just mad, to be honest. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I've got to take this call. Alrighty, Frankie. Sorry about that. I had to take a call.
No worries.
And of course, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She obviously is in a walker right now, so that's understandable, right? It'd be pretty hard for her to go down the Capitol steps. But the other ones that are not going to be there is Microsoft founder Bill Gates or Melinda French Gates. You know, I can understand Melinda Gates. She's not a Trump fan, but I thought Bill Gates there had been warming up to Donald Trump for a while. So that's kind of weird, right? Out of all the tech moguls, Bill Gates, which by the way is still pretty, relevant in today's world. 90% of the world's computers use their software. So that's kind of interesting. You
I think on the back of everyone's mind is the whole Epstein list, and many people have accused, thrown Gates' name out there. Nothing has been substantiated, of course, but many people are, waiting for Donald Trump to get into office and for, uh, is it Pat Patel, the new FBI director, who before he was even um, the director, he was saying, this is one of the things that needs to happen if Donald Trump were to win the presidency. So maybe this could be his way of, you know, getting the heck out of Dodge, so to speak. But only time will tell.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see what. And there's comments. People have more important things to do. I don't know what that comment is, but okay. Oh my gosh. I think we've got a Democrat here. Oh man. Event schedule. What's the event schedule going to be like? Well, the theme is our ending democracy. I don't know what that means. It's a constitutional promise. That's what the theme is. But President Joe Biden's 4-year term ends at noon on January 20th, which is tomorrow. And then once again, the president elect is sworn in shortly after. There's a procession to the Capitol, right? And what's going to happen is the University of Nebraska, Lincoln Combined Choirs, and the U.S. Marine Band will perform a musical prelude, and they're going to sing the president's own. Then, after that happens, the Archbishop of New York, Timothy Dolan, and the Reverend Franklin Graham will deliver the invocation. And then this guy, the America's tenor, he's going to sing "O America," Christopher Macchio. At first, when I was preparing this screen, I put Ralph Macchio. If you recall, Ralph Macchio was the guy from Happy Days, so I had to make a correction. And then Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh will administer the vice presidential oath. which means that J.D. Vance will be sworn in first. The vice president is always sworn in first. And then Carrie Underwood, she's been selected to sing along with the Armed Forces Chorus and the U.S. Naval Academy, and she'll perform America the Beautiful. And then Chief Justice John Roberts will administer the presidential oath of office. And the U.S. Naval Academy, actually, he gets sworn in, and then the U.S. Naval Academy Glee Club will sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic. And then Donald Trump gives his inaugural address. And then the benediction is actually done by a couple of guys. One is a Jewish rabbi, Dr. Ari Berman, and then they are even having an Islamic imam actually do the benediction as well, followed by Pastor Lorenzo Sewell of the 180 Church Detroit, and Reverend Father Mark Mann of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn. So there's going to be four guys that are doing the benediction. And then the national anthem, once again, is going to be performed by Christopher Macchio. And then the outgoing president, President Joe Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris actually depart the Washington. As you know, they leave on Marine One, and they get flown out of Washington. And then the President Trump has a signing ceremony for nominations, memorandums, proclamation, and executive orders. And then there's a luncheon, and then there's a parade where they view the military troops down Pennsylvania Avenue. So that's pretty much how it's all going to happen tomorrow, starting at 12. And as we mentioned, the entertainment for tomorrow, Carrie Underwood will be singing, and Lee Greenwood will also be singing. And this guy, Christopher Macchio, the America's tenor, will be singing. But that's not the only ones. Kid Rock, obviously, a big Trump supporter, will be singing along with the Village People. Maybe Trump will get out there and do his Trump dance, you know. Billy Ray Cyrus. I don't know who Jason Aldean is. I know who Rascal Flatts is. Park McCullum,
Uh,
Gavin McGraw. Do you know who those guys are? Park McCullum?
yeah, they're country singers.
Ah, okay. So
Uh,
it's pretty much, you know, country music driven. And then Liberty University's Praise Choir will also be performing, as well as the Armed Forces Chorus and U.S. Naval Academy Glee Club. And then the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Combined Choirs. So it's a whole slew of, you know, entertainers. You know, it'll be interesting to see how. But I can't wait to see the Village People and Trump get out there and do his boogie. You know. And of course, the big thing is executive orders. They are being termed shock and awe. And Trump plans to sign over 100 executive orders immediately after being sworn in. Now, I don't know how you sign 100 that fast, but okay, I'll take it, you know. But the big one is going to be Title 42. Title 42 is the law, the public health law that Trump and Biden used during COVID to turn back migrants. Unfortunately, Biden ended that policy back in 2023. But basically, it's going to bring back Title 42 that allows the expelling of asylum seekers at the U.S. border. So there's also going to be an attempt to end birthright citizenship. I'm a little bit more skeptical about that executive order, quite frankly, because I think the problem with that is that it is in the Constitution that anybody born does have birthright citizenship. So I think that one's probably going to be challenged, right? There's going to be all kinds of laws that, you know, will all kinds of not laws but lawsuits, excuse me, that probably will challenge whether that is constitutional or not. If I had to bet some money, I don't think birthright citizenship is going to be the easy one to get rid of. Um, you know, there's also going to be an executive order to restart the border wall. I'm not sure how much border wall is left to be built. There are areas, obviously, that it didn't make any sense to build. There's some that obviously weren't practical to build because it's sink. We know that already. But the other executive order is going to be to empower local law enforcement to actually become immigration um, officers, per se. The ability for them to arrest people for immigration violations. So, what's your take on that?
I think he's trying to fulfill his platform. One thing that I heard was, I have a mandate from the American people to make America great again, to change things that were done from the previous administration. There's talks that on Tuesday, they're going to start deporting people. They're going to start in Chicago. As you all know, Chicago is nicknamed Chirac. It's murder capital. I'm not sure if it is now, but it once was. What really caught my eye or my attention was how President Trump, even before the election, he was already hinting to the idea of invading Mexico. It is stated that one of his executive orders is going to be to classify cartel members as terrorists. That could possibly give uh, President Trump's administration a reason to invade our southern border. Maybe that will change the influx of drugs. There has to be something different that occurs. Those are the two things that I'm really looking at: the Title 42 deportation, and also the cartels being categorized as terrorist organizations.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing he's going to sign in an executive order is to impose a 10% tariff on Chinese products. That means that everybody better go get their TVs and their iPads and their cell phones now because at once that executive order is signed, your prices are going to go up on most Chinese products, and that includes electronics, toys. I mean, you name it, clothes. So it'll be interesting there. I'm more concerned about the tariffs for Canada and Mexico. As you know, tariffs would be pretty, especially for Mexican manufactured products, that would hurt the automotive industry. So I am concerned about that because, uh, for example, Ford, most of their manufacturing facilities are in Mexico now. So that definitely is a concern. I am not for tariffs. I've never been for tariffs. I know that President Trump a lot of times says that he's going to do something, but he does it more to threaten than actuality. So I'm hoping that that's the case. But tariffs is not something that I'm in favor of because it would definitely increase prices. As you know, we're already paying a lot of money now for groceries, and the last thing we need is an increase in prices. So I'm not really sure about the tariffs. I'm on the fence there. I don't have a problem using them as a tool to force the Chinese or the Mexicans or even the Canadians, but it's going to have a direct impact on all of us if they don't budge, right? Because that's the thing. If they don't budge, then we're in for the long haul. So we'll see what happens there. TikTok, we already talked about TikTok. He is planning to extend a 90-day moratorium or a 90-day delay that will allow a U.S. investor to, well, first of all, to get ByteDance to actually sell to something other than a Chinese investor. So I know that Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank is interested in buying. There's also been rumors that Elon Musk may also be interested in buying. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And obviously, something that's going to make Sarah Palin happy, drill, baby, drill. There will be an executive order to open up offshore drilling off the Atlantic and the Pacific coasts, as well as opening drilling in Alaska's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Now, the one to watch is the Atlantic coast because Florida is not in favor of drilling on either side, either on the Gulf side or on the Atlantic side. So there may be some issues there with uh, Ron DeSantis and everybody in Florida because they are not in favor of drilling on either coast. And obviously, you know that they're a tourist state, so that that is a factor. I'm not sure about the Pacific coast, but definitely I've read articles that talk about the fact there's a lot of opposition in Florida to offshore drilling. So, and uh, there's a possibility that they're going to eliminate the electric vehicle mandate and the tax credits. That'll be interesting to see how that affects, obviously, Tesla, right? So we'll see. There'll be an executive order to eliminate Joe Biden's natural gas export ban as well. And then the other executive order is he wants to pass an executive order to get rid of what he calls transgender lunacy, and that means that transgender people will not be allowed in the military or in public schools, and it'll keep athletes born males from participating in women's sports. There's also a bill, by the way, in the House that passed that would ban transgender women and girls from participating in women's sports. As you know, there's a lot of controversy, especially lately in swimming. You know, there was an athlete that was originally a male and became a female, and they apparently won, I think, a medal. And obviously, you know, there was a lot of controversy with regards to that because the women that were in the swim team claimed that you know, they were at a disadvantage because the biological male, who was now a female, was obviously a lot stronger and faster and so forth. So there's a bill in the House, but it does not have the 60 votes to pass to make it into Trump's hands for signature. There is going to be an executive order to eliminate DEI in business and government. That means to eliminate the diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility programs out there. And then another big one is there's going to be an executive order to force federal employees that have been working remotely since COVID to come back to work on site. Those that do not return will be fired immediately. And then the last executive order, probably not the last one, but the ones that we're going to mention here is there's going to be an executive order to eliminate funding for NGOs, which are non-government operations. And that pretty much refers to nonprofit organizations such as Planned Parenthood that receives federal funding for abortions. So, yeah. So basically, you know, I've talked to a lot of federal workers and especially those that do work remotely, and they are concerned about the fact that they're going to be forced to go back to work. You know, I'll be honest with you. You know, I don't necessarily buy the argument that Elon and a lot of other people have made that say that remote workers are lazy or that they don't do anything. I can tell you firsthand as somebody that works remotely that I work harder today than I ever have. You know, I work harder today working remotely than I did when I worked on site because, first of all, I can't disengage work from family life, right? My office is 5 steps away from my bedroom. So it's not easy for me to just forget about work as easy as somebody else would if they work somewhere and they had to clock out at 5 o'clock. At least those people can clock out at 5 and forget about their work until the next morning. But I don't quite buy that now. Are there some people that were probably, during COVID milking it? Of course. Yeah. I get that. But I don't necessarily buy their argument. That is one thing that I mean, I agree with Elon Musk on a lot of things, but that is one thing I don't quite buy because, I work with a lot of remote workers and they're just not sitting on their ass the way these guys claim that they are, you know. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But the problem I think they're going to run into, though, is that some of these federal workers you just can't fire. They think they can fire them, but they can't because a lot of them fall under civil service. And when you're a civil service employee, it's a little harder. It's not as easy. So we'll see. But it'll be interesting to see with regards to DEI. I think it'll be I think with regards to government, yeah, they can probably eliminate some of those programs. As far as business goes, I seriously doubt they're going to convince a lot of businesses to give up their DEI. I can tell you that there's businesses out there, especially in automotive, a lot of your automotive manufacturers, they have diversity and equity and inclusion programs built into their tier levels. So, for example, I know McDonald's, for example, they have suppliers that are minority owned, right? They have suppliers that are minority owned. They have suppliers that are women run companies, and those are all are DEI. A lot of people don't want to think that, but that's what they are. And so they have a lot of those things. The automotive companies have a lot of diversity programs where some of your suppliers have to they mandate that they have to be minorities, right? Um, so I don't think business is gonna fall in line with that because there's a lot of uh, situations where it makes sense to hire that company. I mean, why the heck would you want to go to a supplier that is more expensive when you've got a minority owned company that's doing the same thing, right? It makes no sense. Yes, they probably started off as a minority owned business, but they're actually cheaper than somebody else that may not be minority owned. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to give up that. They're not going to give that up. So I have my doubts there, but you never know, right? But yeah, so what do you think about these executive orders? Which ones do you think? Do you think all are going to be signed right away? Do you think some are going to be challenged?
Yeah, I think Trump's not messing around. I think he wants to implement his platform as swiftly, as quickly as possible. Like we previously mentioned, there's already talks about on Tuesday that they're going to make their rounds through the streets of Chicago. It's a wait and see game, but I do think that they are going to go, foot to the pedal and try to implement as much as possible. We have seen how this previous administration and their lax response to many important issues in regards to open borders, inflation, um, crime. Everything goes hand in hand. So I look forward to this new administration. I hope that uh, the executive orders that are signed, implemented throughout President Trump's tenure does bring about positive change. We hope to see the United States back on that hill because unfortunately, maybe this is a personal opinion, but for the past 2, 3, 4 years, we've been the laughing stock. I feel as if now President Trump gives us some sort of credibility back as being the big dog. Um, Many implementations in regards to DEI, that's going to help. So we'll see. I guess history. We'll talk about this down the road of how this mandate from the American people turned out to be. So a lot to look forward to. I'm anxiously awaiting to see how these results will benefit us as Americans, and hopefully, hopefully the attention will be on Americans, will be on homeless, will be on veterans, those suffering from PTSD. Instead of giving money to Ukraine, instead of giving money to people from the outside, I really hope that this administration focuses on our current infrastructure, our social programs. There was people that say, "Oh, if you vote Republican, they're going to take away your Medicare. They're going to take away your Social Security." That's one thing that once President Donald Trump won, and he created Doge with Elon Musk. That's one thing that they said right away. We're not touching Medicare. We're not touching Social Security. Those were rhetorics that the Democrats were using to strike fear in people. Oh, if you vote red, you're going to lose your benefits. Not at all. I think we need to go back to the basics. We do need to really solidify these social programs because, again, Americans are in need. Rent, food, gas at one time was unaffordable. So I really hope that this administration does help out the American people because we are the ones that are in need. We are the ones that are suffering. We live paycheck to paycheck. But then again, we had a Biden administration sending billions and billions of dollars um, across the world, where in reality we needed it the most.
Yeah. No doubt about it. There definitely needs to be relief. And I really hope that, some of these things, occur. Obviously, when it comes to energy, I'm not I'm not in favor of eliminating the electric vehicle tax credit, but I'm not. So I hope that one doesn't happen. I'm not very warm about, the tariffs. I think those need to be handled with care. Um, I have a I have a concern when it comes to birthright citizenship, whether that's even a fight worth having early on. There are some things you want to do early on. There's some things you don't want to be caught early on doing. Every administration unfortunately gets ahead of themselves and focuses sometimes on things that they shouldn't. So I hope that the administration doesn't fall into that trap like we've seen previous administrations, because the reality is that they've only got 2 years. They don't have 4 years. A lot of people say, oh, it's 4 years. No, it's really 2 years. It's 2 years because the midterms come up. And as you know, historically speaking, the midterms, the party in power loses seats usually, right? So they only have 2 years really to implement an agenda, and they've got to do it quick and they've got to do it fast. Because as you know, what happens is Washington starts preparing for the next election. And then you have everybody that wants to be president also jockeying for position, right? I mean, I guarantee you that, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and all those other guys are going to start itching right after Trump gets sworn in to start jockeying for 2028, you know? And so they've only got 2 years. So they need to focus on the smart things and they need to not focus on the batshit crazy stuff that sometimes we get caught in. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But once again, folks, the clock is up there for the inauguration. It starts at 12 noon. We'll all be watching the second inauguration and swearing in of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States. We appreciate everybody for tuning in and for watching, and you'll be able to watch this show across the 12 social media platforms. And we've got another show coming up, football show. So for those of you interested where we're at with the playoffs, obviously that's coming up here shortly. And Frankie, once again, thank you for joining. Hope it's not too cold down on the island. you know, so hopefully you at least can still get out there, and enjoy the beach. So, alrighty, everyone, we'll see you all in a little bit. And Frankie, have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Danny. Likewise.
Bye bye. Give me a second. Uh, I I got a call. My daughter apparently was ready, and my wife is pissed off.
Oh, let's see.
Yeah. Ay, ay, ay. Guess she had to go get her in Los Fresnos. But my daughter never,
That,
no. So I don't know what the deal was there, man. But I didn't forget her. I just